In October 2022, I passed my WSET Level 3 exam in wines with distinction on the first attempt, and here are the 7 little mistakes that almost all of the candidates make while preparing for the WSET exam. Don't be like them. Here we go. The first mistake that all of the people commit, including myself, while preparing for the WSET tasting exam is buying expensive wines and tasting them at home, trying to get more experience, trying to put in more reps for the tasting part. And it's totally fine to taste some wine at home for some extra preparation, but please don't waste a fortune on very expensive wines, because there is no point in it. Honestly, during the WSET Level 3 preparation, you will taste about 70 wines in class, and I promise you that 65 of them would be high-quality complex wines. But actually, WSET doesn't teach us how to taste simple wines. You'll have only a couple of them in class before the actual exam, which is absurdly disproportionate amount compared to more complex wines. So my advice here, if you really want to better prepare for the tasting exam, just grab a €3 bottle of wine and try to taste it at home. Because on the day of the exam, you'll see that one of the wines you'll have to taste will be 90% a simple supermarket wine, and you have to describe it. It was the same when I had my WSET 3 tasting exam. I had a very complex sweet white wine and then a simple red wine that we tasted only once during the preparation. So don't be shy, just buy the least expensive wine in the supermarket and try to evaluate it according to the WSET standards. It will help you a lot, I promise. And okay, let's go for the next tip, which is don't be fooled by the sugar in wine. Really, it is very hard to identify sometimes if the wine is dry or it has just a tiny bit of sugar, so it is off dry. And people not only lose points writing in the exam sheet dry instead of off dry, which is not a big mistake, actually it will rob you only 1 mark, but there is one serious consequence of this little mistake. Wines with a bit of sugar seem to be more fruity, more complex than they actually are. This is how our palate works. It's just a normal reaction of our taste bumps on the sugar in wine. So we may not only lose marks for writing dry instead of off dry, if we don't understand the presence of this tiny amount of sugar in wine, but also we may lose marks for intensity on the palate, for primary descriptors, even finish, a whole bunch of different categories, and in this case we actually can go all the way from pass to fail unqualified without any exaggerations. So think very carefully about sugar in wine and don't be tricked by a tiny bit of sugar in off-dry wines. The next mistake, which I personally see very often among people who are preparing for the WSET 3 tasting exam, is swirling the glass too soon. Let me explain what I mean here. In order to correctly identify aroma intensity, we just need to put the nose inside the glass and make a very small inhale, like almost non-existent, right? If you smell nothing, the aroma intensity is light. If you smell something but not very well, then the intensity is medium. And if you smell aromas even without inhaling, then the aroma intensity is pronounced. But anyway, you don't need to swirl the glass before evaluating the aroma intensity, because when you swirl, you open up more of the aromas, and the wine with light aromas may seem medium to you. So by swirling, we are intensifying the aroma intensity, and we don't want to do it while evaluating the intensity. It's perfectly fine to swirl the glass when trying to identify all the primary, secondary, and tertiary aromas, because in this case, additional aerating adds to the aromas. They become more visible, well, smellable, not visible, if you wish. And doing this, you elevate your chances of capturing all the aromas and consequently getting all the marks in this category. But please don't swirl the glass before evaluating the intensity. Otherwise, it's very easy to be fooled by aromas which may seem too bright, and in reality, they're not. And by the way, if you need some help with preparing for your WSET tasting or theory exam, we may have a private session where I'll explain my approach to the SAT that helped me to get a pass with distinction mark at first attempt. So if you are preparing for your WSET exam now, check the link in the description down below to book a call with me. The next mistake that a lot of WSET students make is that they underestimate the power of small chapters at the end of the student's book about sparkling and fortified wines. There will be necessarily at least one short written answer, which in fact is not short, it's just the name from the WSET short written answer about sparkling and fortified wines. And if you learn just these 10 pages, maybe 20 pages, which is really a very small volume of information compared to all of the information you need to learn about still wines, you'll get all the marks for this task. So never underestimate the significance of the last chapters. You will have questions about them, and not only in short written answer section, in the multiple choice section as well. You will have questions about muscats, and there is only one page at the end of the student's book, like half a page in the whole book about muscats. So make sure to learn it well, because these are just 3 marks, 3 points, which are very easy to get you closer to the distinction grade, okay? The next thing I want to share may sound a bit corny, but it is actually very important. Repetition is the key to success. It's not enough to just read the book one time or even learn it by heart one time, because our memory tends to erase the knowledge we don't use. So make sure to go back to the previous pages and chapters of the book in order to revise them once in a while. My strategy when I was preparing for the theory exam was revising all of the chapters I learned the previous day. Normally it was like 2-3 chapters, revising them in the morning and then starting learning new information. The same the next day, and after I finished the whole book, I revised the whole book again. It took me 1 month of tedious studies to remember the whole book, but the WSET level 3 exam, it's not a piece of cake. It is a professional qualification which requires a lot of knowledge and persistence. So don't hesitate to go back once in a while and revise the previous chapters. Doing this, you'll make your knowledge firm and reliable, so you won't lose it at the day of the exam. The next huge mistake that WSET students often make is overcomplicating the level of quality when tasting a wine. It is the mark that you absolutely, like 100% should get, and it's actually very easy to do it. Level of quality depends on just 4 parameters like balance, complexity, intensity, and the length of the finish. Balance is the first parameter. If the wine is okay, if it is not faulty in like 98% of cases, it will be balanced. Yes, there are a couple of exceptions, but these are very rare, frankly. The next one is intensity. Again, it's very simple. If you determine the wine as pronounced on the nose and on the palate, it is getting the point for intensity. The same with medium plus. If it got medium, medium minus, or even less, then the wine doesn't get a point here. Coming up next, we have complexity. If you describe the wine with various descriptors and it has not only primary aromas, very probably it is a complex wine. If the wine is simple, you just get it on the spot, right? It's very easy to identify a simple wine. So it's never difficult to identify a complex wine. And finish, it's even simpler than that. If it lasts for quite time, the wine gets a point for this parameter. Basically, you just copy the point from the finish section on the palate, and then you just count how many out of 4 points the wine got, and then determine the level of quality. It's very easy. So you get 1 more mark and you are getting closer to the distinction grade. And the last thing, like a bonus thing, okay, just learn the names of the German villages which are centers of the region. I know that it might be a bit tough and you will probably even forget these villages if you don't work closely with German wines after the exam, but just learn them. You will have questions about this. Normally it's like 1 question in multiple choice section, and sometimes they add some info concerning the German villages in the short written question section as well. So just learn them by heart. You will definitely won't regret it, as this simple action, learning them by heart, like a poem or something, will get you from 1 to 5 additional points. And again, there will be questions about German wine villages. They love it so much. So hope that my pieces of advice were useful. Check the link in the description if you need some help during the preparation for your WSET exam, and see other videos about passing WSET exam on the channel. So good luck. Bye.